7:38 Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening for your Thursday, November 16th. Michael Patrick Leahy from the Tennessee Star joining us here in studio. And Michael, we've got a lot of stories to cover. First of all, an update on Matthew Giffen. Now, this is a story that you and I have been covering for the last several days. And you do have an update on young Matthew, 18 years old. Is that how old he is?
He's a senior at MTSU, so probably 20, 21.
20. All right, very good. And this is a situation where he wrote a story that was sympathetic to the Israeli cause.
It wasn't even that. It was simply the story of an MTSU student who was concerned about friends in Tel Aviv, Israel. So that story was published on October 27th. The subject of the story was getting threats from pro-Hamas Middle Tennessee State University community members. And so he went to Matthew and said, hey, can you remove that article? I don't need these threats. So Matthew removed the article. But here's the rub. Then the editorial board of the student newspaper Sidelines convened and decided to issue an apology for for publishing that story, and falsely claimed that the reason that they were that they were apologizing, and the reason that they'd been taken down was because it did not fairly portray what was going on in Palestine and Gaza. That was so that was the situation that Michael objected to. The faculty advisor, former Tennessean reporter Leon Alligood, was in the room and approved of this, and that's why Matthew resigned, because it was a dishonest description of why the article was removed. And it's an example, I think, of bias and anti-Semitism at Middle Tennessee State University. And Leon Alligood, who is their advisor, was in the room and has been described as the boss of the paper. They gave us a statement which basically said the students did all this, and that's really not true.
Isn't it his job, though, if this is the editorial board, isn't his job to sort of guide them?
It is.
Well, apparently there wasn't a lot of guiding.
Well, there was a guiding in the wrong direction.
There you go. It was a guiding in the wrong direction.
Bias and anti-Semitism, and it's right there at the feet of Leon Alligood, the faculty advisor at Middle Tennessee State University, and Middle Tennessee State University administration. So
Matthew Giffen, you've spoken to him.
We spoke with him yesterday.
And is he feeling energized by this? Is he feeling defeated by this? Because we speak to people like, young folks like I sound so old. Young folks like Matthew Giffen.
You're still a young man, Dan.
And sure. And and sometimes they're energized and sometimes they feel defeated. I mean, you remember Daniel Schmidt, who I have on the
young man from Middle Tennessee who's a student at the University of Chicago.
Yeah, and he was energized when he had to deal with this stuff. He got up in front of, remember that whole thing, journalism symposium, and he got up and he gave Ann Applebaum from Variety the business. And so he was energized by these people on the left attacking him. I do hope that Matthew Giffen uses this as motivation to continue to pursue the truth.
I think he will. Yeah, I spoke with him. He seemed very upbeat, although, he is under attack at Middle Tennessee State University from the anti-Semitic administration and by the growing pro-Hamas group of students within Middle Tennessee State University community.
I do find it interesting. So he wrote about, the subject of his article was about a person who knew people in Israel.
That's it.
Why does that warrant death threats? That's what I don't understand is.
Well, I don't know if they were threats.
Threats.
They were threats. That's what we can tell you.
We're going to minorly hurt you, but we're not going to kill you, I guess. Then.
Well, who knows?
Threats. All right, fine. But okay, fine. Why? How does that warrant threats? I mean, I don't understand why. That's what I'm saying. This side is so rabid and radical because if you show any sign of pro-Israel, pro-Jewish folks, then for the other side, you need to be threatened and shut down. We were talking earlier about how you had 200,000 pro-Israeli people earlier this week out in Washington, D.C. supporting Israel. There were no cops attacked. There were no buildings vandalized. There was nothing of the sort. But you get 150 pro-Hamas folks out there, and 6 cops are injured, only 1 person arrested. And it's just the differences between these two sides is, I'm not going to say it's surprising, but it's remarkable.
There is a culture of anti-Semitism at Middle Tennessee State University, and the administration there is doing virtually nothing to stop it or protect students that have a pro-Israel view.
So the question is Matthew Giffen, is he still a student there? He's
still a student there. He's a senior. He's looking for a career in journalism, and we'll see what happens there.
Oh, look at you. Okay, very good.
And I think he may be coming onto this program next week to talk about it.
Okay, very good. I'm looking forward to that because I always like to energize young and support and try to inspire some of these young conservative journalists.
It's a tough road for them because not only are they getting pressure from the administration and from social media, but also their peers. A lot of peer pressure. So you have to be very strong to stand up for what's right. And Matthew Giffen has done that.
So now there's going to be yet a 6th anti-Israel protest this weekend here in Nashville.
Yes.
Are these things basically the same thing? The first one is like the second one, like the third one, like the fourth one? I mean,
it's all part of a plan. And it's interesting, the description of this. They describe them as pro-Palestine, but really these are anti-Israel, pro-Hamas demonstrations.
So there's this whole thing, Michael Patrick Leahy, there's this whole thing where there seems to be some word games being played because you'll have people that say, well, we're pro-Palestine, we're pro-Gaza, but that doesn't mean we're pro-Hamas, but we're chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we want genocide.
That's inconsistent.
It is inconsistent.
Right. Well, the other thing, too, to note here is there's a strategy on the part of the pro-Hamas demonstrators and the far left, and that is to create the impression that there is a growing groundswell of anti-Israel sentiment. And that's why they've been doing these every week. And this is the 6th consecutive pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, pro-Hamas rally.
Yep.
We've heard reports that they're actually bussing in people to participate in these rallies. But it's part of a bigger theme, right? Because you saw yesterday, late last night, 150 plus pro-Hamas ralliers basically rioted outside in Washington, D.C., the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee.
But, you know, you're a smart guy. I'm kind of smart. So I'm looking at this video, and I tweeted it out. And you've got all of these, frothing at the mouth nut jobs who are attacking police. Why only one arrest? Like, do you think more arrests are coming? Or because I'm looking at all these people attacking police officers, and the cops are just barely able to keep them at bay.
I can answer that question for you.
Go ahead.
No one in the crowd of protesters who were engaged in violent activity, no one was wearing a red MAGA hat. That is your answer.
Yes.
I made you laugh.
You did. It takes a lot to make me laugh these days. Tennessee Attorney General Skrmetti joining the efforts of 24 other attorneys general in demanding Congress pass the Immigration Enforcement Partnership Act of 2023. Now, this has to do with states such as Tennessee being able to defend ourselves against the scourge of illegal immigration. I'm going to tell you, Skrmetti's been in office for what?
Little over a year.
Yeah. I am so impressed with him. I mean, I think he is doing a great job. Talk about what's going on here.
Well, first, let me just say I agree with you. I think Jonathan Skrmetti is the best attorney general of any state in the union. And the irony of it is he was selected in what I think is in Tennessee's process. I think it's the worst process for selecting an attorney general. We're the only state in the union where the state Supreme Court selects the attorney general for an eight-year term. That's a violation of the basic principles of checks and balances for the Constitution. However, 44 states, they elect the attorney general. 5 states, the attorney general is selected by the state legislature. We've had, prior to Skrmetti, a very Midland attorney general. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, life is filled with irony. And that is certainly a high point of irony. But in this instance, this particular bill that they've written a letter to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and said, look, you got to pass this bill because DHS is not enforcing immigration law. If you pass this bill, we, attorneys general of red states, can sue DHS to force them to follow the law. That's the whole point. And I think it's a great idea, and it kind of lays the battle gauntlet down.
Yeah, but does it have a chance? You know, the Senate, of course, plays into all of this as well, because the Senate is not going to do anything.
It'll pass the House.
Yeah, it'll pass the House.
I think it would have a shot of passing the Senate.
You think so?
How will Kristen Sinema in Arizona vote? You know, she's a Democrat/independent.
She's an independent
51-49.
Yeah.
I think there's a shot there.
All right.
I think there's a shot.
Yeah. Well, listen, if there's anything we need, it's help dealing with the southern border, and states do need to have the ability. You know, I wonder, this would be interesting, actually, because how would the Democrats in New York vote for something like this in the House, or maybe New York senators? Well, how would Chuck Schumer or somebody like this vote for this?
He'd vote against it.
You think so? Because New York has been decimated by this crap.
Doesn't matter. He's on Team Biden. I have one little curveball for you we didn't discuss.
All right, go ahead.
Steven Crowder.
Yes.
The guy who discovered the leaked 3 documents that have been confirmed to be written by the Covenant Killer.
Yep.
He is now circulating a petition asking for the release of the manifesto, the full release. I will have to say this is purely an exercise to obtain email addresses by Stephen, because, you know, the petition will have no impact on any of the ongoing legal proceedings.
No, it won't. And he's just trying to get emails to support his podcast or show or whatever that is.
You know, he's got this mug club, which you can be a member of for only $89 a year.
$89 a year.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah. Look, what Crowder has done is he has, with his high level of visibility, he has demonstrated that a conservative media outlet can make money, and he's doing it in part not just through advertising, because, you know, advertisers are all anti-conservative media, Google, Facebook, etc. Right. But, you know, the business model is subscription for high-level traffic sites. He's doing that successfully with his own Steven Crowder website.
You know what I've noticed? Go ahead and finish.
And Tucker Carlson's going to try to do the same thing.
So what I find fascinating is in this whole culture of online conservatives, Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire, of course, you know, they had this massive battle.
They had what you might call a little dust-up.
A little dust-up. And I actually supported Steven Crowder in that, because a lot of people supported Daily Wire, the big, correct me if I'm wrong, the big dust-up was that they wanted Crowder to give up, you know, all of his websites and basically everything that he had worked so hard to accomplish if he was going to go work for the Daily Wire, and he said no. Let's
say a good thing about the Daily Wire. They are based here in Nashville, and really good, although...
I like the Daily Wire, too.
I just have to say,
some stuff with them.
They are making news because, speaking of dust-ups, I don't know if you saw this, there's a big dust-up between Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens.
No.
Oh, you didn't know that?
You're throwing this down at 7:52? What is wrong with you? give me the 1 minute upshot.
Ben has criticized her publicly for some of her statements with regards to Israel, I think. Hasn't articulated, but she's pushing back on it. So it is, how shall we say this? It's a bit unseemly.
It seems a little, you know, the kids are using the term spicy these days.
Is that, yeah, I heard you talking about the new words that kids are using.
Yeah.
Spicy would be probably the right word. I know Ben, I know Candace, and hopefully they'll work it out.
I'm sure they will.